much, Ajay. So now I think we can make it open for questions and my
respond to
chronology सही होना
okay. So he responds now to Ajay's and after that. Okay. So okay.
Thank you, Ajay, with very, very important and provocative questions. I think, how should I begin? There are various ways of responding to this debate, but I will engage in a more productive one, rather polemic. I can also bring a lot of questions, but let me say very clearly, it's not a, I think you misread. I didn't talk about the tension between local and modernity, or vernacular or modernity. I think what I said is how local, I think this you missed a very important chapter where I discuss how local is produced historically, economically, and politically. And that's called culture of Gujar political culture, where money, muscle, power, and political economy play a very important role. It's not a cultural reduction. This story is not about culturalization. I try to do big challenge how to bring culture and economy together in one frame. So that's the story is not, you misread that story. This is one point. And it's not about how local is intention. Actually, how local or vernacular is interacting. And they're both changing each other. It's about the dynamics between them. And dynamics not static. They're every day they are changing. Here is not a question of subaltern can't raise a big question. But subaltern has also pragmatics. This is not only the duty of the subaltern always to create a big frame or big politics or normative. They deal with both. When they deal with pragmatics, because everybody deals with pragmatics, and that's the linkages we need to find in political theory. This is a very, very weak point in political theory. Because no politics run without bigger ideals. So if you miss not reading well this book, then you're missing a larger point. Despite all pragmatics, Gujars are engaging in a also normal politics which your theory is inadequate to understand. Nation building is a big one of the larger argument in this world. You cannot go beyond the nation building. Whatever you do, and the political economy comes under nation building. If a certain political paradigm has taken a different turn, then it's a different story. So when subalterns are engaging with the politics, it is not only just few demands. That's what I try to very clearly, it's just only not reservation. It's not only just social justice, but they have a different vision for the nation building and a different vision of the equality and different vision of fraternity. And that is how I would respond to that. And that's why I said, I think the important chapter you missed where I brought how local is very much a game of power and connection with the national and global. Where the capital flow is there, it's not just is isolated and is trying to say, oh, we are not modern. No, they are very much part of this entire process of neoliberalization. That's why how Gujar enters into the politics. That's the one key point. They could only enter into the politics, one of the ways why they could assert in electoral politics, because the neoliberal capital entered, and it does not mean they accepted it. I may not have said very clearly with anecdote, but there is a whole history of Gujars who fought against all these land grabs here. There is a huge history here. And I, somewhere, I mentioned, and also in the chapter where I try to discuss how local politics and regional politics and national politics come into one frame of political economy, and as well as question of power enters into it. So it's not a divide of power discourse at all or practice. I think somewhere must have gone something which is, when we read every book very differently. We have our own eyes to read a book, and that can be beauty and that can be disaster, both. Because I can say you're beautiful, but you can say no, I'm not. We can fight each other. But anyway, it's like, it's a very, very complex terrain to deal with. But exactly what the kind of question you raised, in fact, I would say opposite. I try to address these questions into the book, into the framework where try to bring two opposite ends of cultural studies. And yesterday I also mentioned how to combine two C's. CCs. What does it mean? CCs means Chatterjee and Chipper. Caste and class. You see, that is what I was trying to do. You meant, I think it was something other CC. So two C's, how we bring together. That was the whole point. And what was they were very, very important, all of them. And one lacuna I accept publicly here, and it was very difficult when I was writing a book, and I'm totally, you can say, either guilty or it was required, because every book cannot address all your questions. There's the limitations of the book. Because I don't know what kind of question you will ask. And writer has to deal with certain kind of material lineage. Despite the good intentions, sometimes there's omissions, and sometimes there are bigger omissions, and you have pointed out about it. I totally agree with that, because I was trying to deal, because in my other book, if you read my other book which I wrote in Hindi, which was published by Oxford, I begin with Ambedkar. So I'm not unaware of Ambedkar. But it was a difficult choice, and when you say farmers' movement, I'm the one who has published the critical piece on farmers' movement. I'm taking this issue of, the House of Interest engaging with the modern politics. But this book was particularly written for particular kind of questions, and I was trying to deal with that. How to understand how anthropology and political science can have a dialogue on the street politics. How we understand street politics, which not only dealing with, as you try to reduce it, pragmatics or some kind of just day-to-day demands. No, it also has a back behind it, driven by the bigger ambition, and which is nation building, new society, just society, is space in that, and that kind, and how they move, and how they try to link. And I was trying to bring this thread together. And when you say local, because another thing which I think I must mention, the history of Arya Samaj. So local was not there and antithetical to anything. If you look at I wrote 100 years of history of Arya Samaj in Western UP, and it's how the Arya Samaj enter into the society. So it's not just somebody comes outside and it's changing. But how people, societies, groups, individuals receiving it. And that's why I try to show the dynamics between out and in. Constantly, my all chapters try to do what is happening outside, what is happening in particular, and how these dynamics reproduce it, or sometimes subvert it. So it's not only single story. Again, I would say it's a story at multiple level in a scale. This and in expansion. So it's not a singular story. The book doesn't tell a single story. It tells multiple story in multiple times and multiple scales. That's not a theoretical book in the sense you will say one theory you derive of it. In fact, it tried to bust all theoretical formulations through the ethnography, which you agree or disagree. There's a different point, but we can all disagree, that's the point of these discussions. But also I try to do it, and I will beg, I will indulge your indulgence. Please read the book. And read all of chapters. And then we can have a discussion. When you read all the chapters, then might have much more fruitful discussion. Because there are chapters which are very important to the book, the key, where how the vision of the particular subaltern groups, comes out, and how Helena have, played around. And I think I tried to answer in a way all of them, but I'm sure I have missed something.
Hindutva point on.
That's the whole point, 100-year history of Arya Samaj. So I might have said that, I'm sure that unintended, but unintended, I think what I was trying to make point, you just picked one word, but if you read the history, the way I wrote chapter 3rd and 4th, where I tell entry of Arya Samaj was not for the Hindutva. Entry of Arya Samaj was the Suddhikaran. They want to purify the castes. They wanted to, they were challenging, there was a dialogue between Christian missionaries and the Arya Samaj that time. And it was in 1920, if you look at the period of from around 1910 and 1935 around, where all these Singh Sabha in Punjab, there was also in Punjab, Arya Samaj was happening, Singh Sabha was coming, and the Sikh was also trying to consolidate. Similar time, the Hindu Orthodoxy was trying to consolidate, and Arya Samaj was trying to bring into the fold more and more caste group, and Suddhi movement started. And that was in the entire region taking from Lahore to I think around the Bulandshahr, or you can go to Agra. The Arya Samaj movement was very, very active, and when if you read the debates, and I have mentioned somehow Dayanand was attacked by Hindu Brahmins. He was not allowed to, in Hardwar he was attacked actually, they were trying to kill him. So there was a very different movement. That time nobody knew what is going to happen in this region after 100 years. And these created a platform. I have given the whole history how they created, Arya Samaj created, satsangs. And there were the temples, those who are familiar with this region, the Arya Samaj temples. And they were considered anti-Brahman actually. There was a time. They were anti-Brahman. There was a fight in the villages about them and the local society, look, we are Arya Samajis. And then this whole platform was captured by someone else. It was ready-made. In a way, there was very little attempt was there, because once you started a project of nation building, in a way, so of course, so what you said they were anti-theocratic. No, I was trying to say how this, this constantly, there were interaction and dynamics, and they're responding to each other. And these dynamics produce certain kind of a hybridization of modernity, local, power, culture, is not separated in such a way, the way I think political theorists might lay it out, or the demand from me to separate them. I think thank you very much. We'll continue this discussion. Thank you again. It was very, very important. Thanks.